Earlier this year, in the height of the pandemic chaos, I suggested it was a great time for people holding US dollars to take those dollars and diversify them into other weaker currencies like the euro and many others that had softened during the chaos, buying residence permits, golden visas, making investments overseas at a discount. Well, since then, the dollar has declined against most major currencies. And now, analysts are saying it could decline another 20% in 2021. I'm going to tell you why that's so important for nomad capitalists looking to create their international plans. I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And as predicted, the dollar has declined this year against other currencies. I understand a lot of people have made bets into gold, into silver, into cryptocurrency. But I believe that there is a reason to be concerned that the dollar will go down further if you are holding US dollars. And it's not that just that once you can finally go back to Italy, it'll be more expensive to buy a gelato. It's that if you're trying to live a nomad capitalist lifestyle, you want to take advantage of residence permits and citizenships and making investments and moving your money into bank accounts that may be in other countries. I still think there's a role for having some cash on hand, and that's going to become more expensive. It already has this year, and now the Financial Times warns vaccine arrival expected to trigger dollar slump in 2021. Analysts predict the currency could fall 20% if widely available coronavirus jab leads to an economic rebound. The article goes like this. Wall Street analysts expect the arrival of a vaccine against coronavirus to send the dollar sinking next year as confidence returns to the global economy. Big banks with already negative views on the dollar for 2021 have cut their forecasts further this month after clinical trials bolsters hope that vaccines could become widely available next year and encourage an economic rebound. The dollar is typically in demand in times of stress, reflecting its traditional role as a haven for investors and savers, as seen in a startling rally at the height of the coronavirus outbreak in March. Now some currency watchers believe a vaccine could change everything. And the article goes on and talks about how they believe the dollar could slip as much as 3% this year, how it already has slipped after gaining a lot of momentum. I'll tell you, looking back in late March 2020, you saw currencies like almost you never believe. The Australian dollar was almost 2 to 1. The British pound was almost at par. The euro was almost at par with the dollar, like 1.06. And so many of the emerging world currencies went down as well. One currency that we've talked about here before that incredibly maintained its position was the Armenian dram, which is an opportunity to earn higher interest rates in a currency that has essentially kept pace with the US dollar, even during times of war, even pandemics. It's right where it was 5 years ago, but all the other currencies have dipped. And so if you are an American, if you are someone around the world where you believe the US dollar is the safe haven, obviously on a longer term, we've seen people like Ray Dalio and many others say that you will have another reserve currency challenge the US dollar at some time in the midterm. Ray suggests the renminbi will do that. But in the near term, if you are trying to create your offshore plans, I want to speak to the psychology, working with people myself, of why this is so important. Because if you're someone who lives in the United States and you want the idea of a backup plan, a place to go, because this year you've seen that the once vaunted U.S. passport on par with some African passports in terms of visa-free travel. Because the U.S. has so many coronavirus cases, a lot of countries shut down to it. Even some countries, if you're an American with a residence in the country, they say, no thanks, no Americans, it's just too much of a risk for us. And so if you've been looking for that second residence, second passport, you might say to yourself, 250,000 euros, it sounds like a lot of money. I talk to people who have $10 million, $20 million, $100 million, and in some cases, it still is, uncomfortable to take money and put it in some country you've never heard of, particularly because the countries that are making it so easy to become a citizen are not Germany. They're not the UK. They're not the countries you've heard of. They're countries that have a lot of the same benefits of those countries, but they're more off-brand countries like Portugal or Latvia or Panama, right? These are not perhaps the first place that you would think of. I think that they're great once you wrap your head around it, but 250,000 euros, you finally get your head wrapped around it at $265,000. And then before you know it, the euro has had a stunning reversal of fortune, and now suddenly it costs $300,000. And what I can tell you is, I think so many people, especially those from the West, where I'm from, where you grow up thinking this is the best place to be. You think we've got a great passport, we can go anywhere we want, everyone wants us. Even though you start to realize on paper, logically, that's not true, those thoughts still stay in your head. And that's why you start to watch the numbers. And you start to feel like a sucker when the euro goes from 1.06 to 1.19, and you feel like, I can't do it anymore, I don't want to be an idiot. And you wait for it to go down. I had a close friend of mine. He said, I think the euro will go down more. The day we had that call, the euro was at 1.07, and it almost never went down below that number. He was waiting for it to go down to par. And I think that there's so much of this idea among some investors that, you don't want to catch a falling knife. I agree with that. I think there's also the idea that if you're trying to diversify out of your country, if you're trying to diversify out of your currency, at some point you just need to take the plunge. And for the same reason that I think some people, even very wealthy people, say, I don't want to spend $100,000 to become a St. Lucian citizen in 6 months and potentially solve all of my problems, because I feel like an idiot just giving $100,000 away. Who cares if I'll save millions? It just feels weird to me. I think the same thing applies with these exchange rates. Listen, I track exchange rates because I talk to people about it. I talk to you about it. And even I sometimes have to stop myself and say, no, I'm sticking with a plan. I'm doing this. I dollar cost average, dollars that I have. We collect money in our business in dollars. I dollar cost average that into other currencies where I'm planning on making investments. I'm planning on doing something. And there's times when it gets a bit more painful. Certainly when things are going your way, if you're buying property in Turkey, for the Turkish Citizenship by Investment Program, you've watched the lira do a free fall over the years. Yeah, sure, every time you buy more, it feels more and more comfortable, except for the loss that you have on the stuff you already have. But if you're trying to buy into some golden visa program, I think it's time to potentially look at this as a warning and as a reminder that the dollar or whatever currency you're using could always get worse. And diversifying into different currencies. I think precious metals have a role. I think cryptocurrency can have a role. We help a lot of people who do crypto and many who don't also. But, there's some role for having real estate that's denominated in a different country's currency. There's some role for using that real estate or using investments, using bank deposits to get your residences and citizenships. And so I think that this could be a wake-up call. It could be a reminder that, not only on a macro level can things always get worse. I think that's a great lesson, that the idea that it can't happen here is not true anymore. Even if you live in the US, Australia, Canada, you've been locked in your home, you've been told you can't leave your country in some cases, you're seeing your taxes go up. But let this particular issue be a wake-up call that you had an opportunity earlier this year to diversify out of your US dollars and get some pretty cool perks that we talk about on this channel. Potentially gets worse. The euro has been at much higher levels than it is now. The pound the same. And so there are visa programs that you can take advantage of. There are properties that you can buy. There are plan Bs that you can put in place. Do it now. At least start dollar cost averaging so that you can take advantage of these programs before your currency becomes worth less. Because I think as your currency becomes worth less, you perhaps will sit on the sidelines, as I see so often with people that I talk to, where you'll say, well, let's just wait for it to come back to 1.19. You'll forget about the 1.07. You'll want to go back to the 1.19 when the euro is 1.25, for example. Commit to what it is that you want to do. Have a solid international plan, and then start putting that plan in action. Don't let the currency stuff get too much in your way, but if you see things going in the wrong direction, do take action. Everyone I talk to, all the bankers, all the financial people that I work with, think the dollar will be lower in 2021. Use this as an opportunity to buy into some of these assets at a lower price point, the way you could have earlier this year in the way perhaps you still can to a lesser extent now. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.